statement, and then we'll take any questions that you have. One of the first things that our leader brought up when he talked to the Prime Minister right after he became leader is he asked the Prime Minister if committees could be re-established as soon as possible. They are an important part of what we do in a democracy, and it was something that Mr. O'Toole asked of the Prime Minister. We are now, through the negotiations that are happening, finding out that the Liberals have no intention of bringing committees back anytime soon. We are very concerned with this. If the Prime Minister, in a minority parliament, does not listen to the concern of the Leader of the Opposition in establishing committees, which are a vital part of our democracy, and which admittedly have exposed some of the corruption and scandal that has plagued this government, it really speaks to the disrespect that the Prime Minister has for Parliament. And I understand tomorrow, after the speech from the throne, the Prime Minister is going to be using airtime to try to get his message out and speak to Canadians. Fair enough. But at the same time, shutting down committees and not allowing committees to do their work is frankly shameful. Now, we believe for sure that committees should be re-established in a very safe way. We know that we've been able to do that over the last number of months, where committees met virtually. Members of Parliament, staff were responsible, they were safe. We're seeing Canadians right across the country going back to work in responsible, safe ways, and we believe that that should happen in Ottawa as well as around the country. But it is absolutely unacceptable that we are not having committees resume as soon as possible so that we can do the work that we need to do as parliamentarians. In addition, if the government wants to pass legislation, they're going to need committees operating in order to get that passed. So my colleague, the House Leader, Mr. Daltel, is going to speak a little bit about current negotiations. But this is very important. This is timely. This cannot be ignored. It can't be ignored here in Ottawa. And Canadians need to know that their democracy is really being disrespected. Mr. Daltel.
Thank you, Candice, and thank you all of you to be here. Depuis le départ, nous, ce que nous demandons, c'est que les parlementaires aient tous les outils pour faire leur travail de député. Période de questions, c'est bien beau, mais c'est pas juste ça le travail parlementaire. Le travail parlementaire se passe énormément en comité. Et nous, ce qu'on demande au gouvernement depuis le début, c'est que les comités puissent reprendre leur travail le plus rapidement possible. Malheureusement, le gouvernement n'est pas d'accord avec cette position-là. Nous, ce qu'on souhaite, c'est que les parlementaires puissent faire leur travail. Les comités sont essentiels dans l'exercice démocratique. Les comités permettent Les comités permettent d'aller au fond des choses. Les Canadiens ont été témoins cet été du travail des parlementaires en comité, comment c'est essentiel pour que le gouvernement puisse rendre des comptes. C'est peut-être pour ça aussi que le gouvernement a décidé de proroger la Chambre, parce qu'il n'y avait pas ce qui se passait au Parlement, surtout dans les comités, alors qu'on rendait des comptes aux Canadiens. Alors pour nous, c'est un élément essentiel, et nous, on comprend que si le gouvernement veut aller de l'avant avec certaines législations, il va falloir absolument que les comités soient reconstitués. Nous, dès le départ, on a demandé que les comités soient constitués le plus rapidement possible, mais le gouvernement retarde à faire ça, et nous, on trouve que c'est désolant. C'est désolant pour les Canadiens, parce que les Canadiens ont besoin d'un Parlement qui fonctionne sous tous les angles, et particulièrement dans les comités parlementaires où énormément de travail est fait pour la démocratie canadienne, et nous, on veut que ce soit fait le plus rapidement possible, qu'on reprenne le travail des parlementaires en comité le plus rapidement possible. Et je tiens à vous rappeler une chose. Quelques heures à peine après le fait que M. O'Toole soit été élu chef parlementaire, chef du Parti conservateur, M. O'Toole a une conversation avec M. Trudeau. Et un des premiers points que M. O'Toole a abordé, c'est le rappel des comités parlementaires le plus rapidement possible. Si par malheur le premier ministre refuse une demande tout à fait légitime du chef de l'opposition officielle, ça commencera très mal.
Presumably they're not saying no committees whatsoever. So can you explain to me, like, if that you wanted them to pick back up where they left off and they won't? Can you explain where the difference is?
They can't wait until November to call back the committees. This is totally unacceptable. Because for the last 6 months, the Parliament was not exactly the Parliament. The Prime Minister decided by himself to stop and to kill the committees in the last month. So Canadians need and deserve to have a real Parliament working in each and every department, and especially in committee, as soon as possible. We're talking about billions of dollars. We're talking about health issue, very serious health issue. The health committee shall be called in as soon as possible. This is what we are asking. We are asking to do our job, and committee is quite important.
Une question de Radio-Canada.
Est-ce que c'est possible de savoir exactement ce que les libéraux vous ont dit par rapport au comité? Est-ce qu'ils vous ont dit à quel moment exactement ça allait
Non, c'est ça
partir?
l'affaire. C'est qu'ils ne l'ont pas dit quand. Et techniquement parlant, ils peuvent attendre jusqu'au mois de novembre pour faire ce dépôt-là. Et nous, ce qu'on croit, c'est que justement, ils risquent de faire ça. Rappelez-vous, il y a un an, ça n'a pas été fait rapidement, cette histoire-là. Et nous, on estime que le travail des parlementaires en comité est essentiel, que ce soit pour la santé. Il va y avoir des enjeux de santé importants à discuter, et ça se fait dans les comités parlementaires le plus rapidement possible. Et le gouvernement refuse de s'engager à remettre en marche les comités, alors que c'est un outil essentiel le plus rapidement possible.
So there'll be about a month without committees. What can you do to enforce them? Would you trigger a vote of non-confidence in protest?
Well, all the options are on the table, but the point is that what we are asking for the government is to get back to committee as soon as possible. You know, door is open. We could negotiate again. My phone is always ready on me, and if Mr. Rodriguez and the other people in the Liberal Party would like to talk to us, no problem, but we would like to see the committee getting back as soon as possible for the good of parliamentary works, and especially for Canadians who deserve answer to tough questions. And this is what parliamentary committee is all about.
So there's no seating plan on the House. There's no voting right now procedure that's established and agreed upon, and no committees till November. Is Parliament even ready to come back?
Well, as you know, we base our arguments since day one about the fact that we have to respect the health issue and also to respect the parliamentarians in their duty. So, based on that, we have seen dramatic evolution in the last weeks about health issue, but on the other hand, we also have to assume our role as a parliamentarian. Tomorrow will be an important day in the Canadian history. Tomorrow we will have the throne of speech. Tomorrow Canadians will get back to see their parliament working. But we're talking about all parliament, not only specific point. Parliament is so much more than question period. Parliament is also work on the committees. So this is why we urge the government to call back committee as soon as possible to let us make our job. Obviously, you will realize and recognize, Canadians recognize that in the summertime and in the springtime, we have seen parliamentarians doing quite well their job. And this is why the government decided to cancel our job. But we have a job to do. We intend to do it as soon as possible, even if there is some...
Was the Governor General properly vetted before she was appointed in light of the recent reporting?
Yeah.
Was the Governor General properly vetted before she was appointed in light of recent reporting about complaints about her behavior under past employees?
Like,
Okay, well then I would like to ask you about the serological testing that members of your Ontario caucus did today, the COVID tests. Mr. Davidson came out earlier in the morning and said that 28 MPs from the Conservative caucus had an unapproved COVID test. They took an unapproved COVID test. Jagmeet Singh says that he cannot believe what he's hearing from the Conservatives, that you are bragging about lobbyists giving you an unapproved test, that it shows that you're politicizing the testing process. What do you say to Mr. Singh and the appropriateness of taking this unapproved test?
Well, my understanding is there was a business in one of the ridings that was given a demonstration to the Ontario caucus.
Do you know which one?
I don't, but I'm sure we can find that out for you. There was given a demonstration, and so it was part of the demonstration was taking a test. And, that I'm not part of the Ontario caucus, but that's my understanding.
En français, je sais que notre collègue de Radio-Canada voulait savoir l'adresse que le Premier ministre va faire demain soir après le discours du 30. Votre réaction, vous trouvez que c'est approprié? Est-ce que c'est inapproprié? Vous voyez quoi dans la stratégie autour de ça?
écoutez, d'abord, on va voir qu'est-ce que le discours du trône contient, qu'est-ce que l'adresse du Premier ministre contient également. Au moment où on se parle, il est un peu tôt pour essayer d'analyser ça, mais je pense qu'historiquement parlant, c'est la première fois que nous allons voir du même moment l'adresse du gouverneur général, le discours du trône, et tout de suite après, un appel à la nation du Premier ministre. Historiquement parlant, je connais un petit peu mon histoire du Canada, c'est la première fois que ça arrive qu'on voit un discours du trône et une adresse formelle du Premier ministre à la nation. Qu'est-ce qui se passe derrière ça? On verra bien demain. Mais ce qui est sûr, c'est qu'autant le Premier ministre veut s'accaparer beaucoup de couverture par rapport à ça, nous, ce qu'on souhaite comme parlementaire, c'est pouvoir faire notre travail comme parlementaire à travers les comités.
How was it
C'est juste par rapport au
how was
comité,
Mr.
j'essaie
O'Toole
de
doing?
comprendre. Est-ce que, dans le fond, si vous n'avez pas de garantie en ce moment des libéraux, quand est-ce que ça va recommencer? C'est
Non,
ça
et
le
puis
problème?
écoutez, depuis le
Ils vous ont pas
départ,
dit quand, c'est
depuis
ça?
le départ, en fait, ils nous ont pas dit quand. Ça fait depuis le départ, vous savez, on était là il y a 2 semaines pour vous dire pour nous c'était important que le travail parlementaire reprenne le plus rapidement possible avec les comités. Notre chef, dans la conversation qu'il a eue avec le premier ministre quelques heures après sa nomination, a dit, M. Trudeau, il faut que les comités parlementaires reprennent le travail le plus rapidement possible. Dès la journée 1, le premier ministre savait que pour nous c'était important. Et on se retrouve à quelques heures à peine. Il n'y a toujours pas d'engagement pour le rappel rapidement des comités. Et c'est notre travail. On est là pour faire notre job. On veut faire notre job en comité. M. Trudeau refuse. Est-ce que c'est parce qu'il a peur qu'on détecte encore d'autres scandales?
How was Mr. O'Toole doing? And what was it like having? How was Mr. O'Toole doing? And what was it like having him convene this virtually?
Well, telling the truth, personally, I was very disturbed.
You know what? We're going to be talking with all of you a lot more tomorrow and over the next 2 days. So I think, why don't we answer the question about Mr. O'Toole, and then I know for myself, I've got to keep going.
I just have one last
Sure.
question in French also after that. We'll
All right,
just
sounds
about
good.
logistics.
Did
yeah.
you get the answer about
I
Mr.
don't think he did. How is Mr. O'Toole? And
Well, personally, when I heard that Madame O'Toole has been tested positive, I felt very sad because I'm very concerned with her. I like her very much, and it's really sad. So many Canadians live in that situation. We are, as you and me, we are Canadians. We are not a side of Canadians people. We live like Canadians. What we have seen, what we are living right now with the O'Toole family, so many Canadians have passed through that. Our part of prayer are with them, obviously. And personally, when I heard this morning that Madame O'Toole has been tested positive,
Et pour demain, pour le discours, étant donné que M. O'Toole est à la maison en isolement, qu'est-ce qui va réagir officiellement au discours à la nation et au discours du pont de M. Trudeau?
Et évidemment, c'est le Parti conservateur qui va réagir, c'est officiel. Mais il a été dans nous allons réagir. Et concernant le chef, il a été annoncé d'ailleurs, le chef fera son discours lorsqu'il sera de retour en chambre. Il ne fera pas un discours virtuel, il fera un discours en chambre. Et conjointement avec justement le chef du Bloc québécois, cette journée-là, les 2 chefs vont faire leur discours. C'est quand même unique dans l'histoire et dans les annales. 2 chefs d'opposition, le chef de l'opposition officielle et le chef du deuxième groupe d'opposition peuvent se mettre en chambre. Et le comité de mesure, nous sommes entendus avec le Bloc. En fait, c'est eux qui ont fait la suggestion que l'on attende que les 2 soient au retour en chambre pour faire la journée des chefs d'opposition.
en anglais aussi, là-dessus, en anglais là-dessus.
Well, okay, last question.
That wasn't a question.
So the leader will make a speech, is a statement when he will get back in the House. There will be no Zoom or whatever virtual speech. It will be a speech in the House, and we agree with the proposition of the Bloc to wait, to have both leaders getting back in the House, to have, I would say, leaders opposition in the House of Parliament. So, we are very careful with that. Obviously, tomorrow we will have some comment on that, for sure. There is plenty of members who will be able to comment on that. But for the leader, we will wait.
Mr. Kent, did you get one of those serological COVID tests, sir?
Sorry?
The COVID test that the Ontario caucus got yesterday. Did you try it out?
I did.
And what did you think? It's like a pinprick. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Well, basically all it indicates is whether or not there are antibodies in your system. It's not an immediate test. It's a background test. But it was reassuring.
I asked because Mr. Singh took a bit of a swing at you guys today, said that you were bragging about having gotten this presentation from lobbyists and that the testing procedure shouldn't be politicized. What do you say?
There was no bragging involved. It was an observation of a test that's in use in other countries.
But is Parliament really ready to come back? Is Parliament ready to come back? There's no real plan for sitting, voting. We're talking about testing today. Is Parliament ready for tomorrow?
Legislatures across the country are sitting and they're doing their
Is
job.
this one ready?
Well, this one is obviously with regards to the hybrid House voting procedures. There are a lot of bugs to be worked out. But we have to be positive. We have to try. We have to continue to try and do the job that Canadians expect us to do, both
in the House and in committees. Restoring committees are essential. I mean,
The GG is currently under investigation for allegations of harassment. How awkward is this going to be tomorrow with her reading the throne speech?
I think we'll get through that.
And anything to say about whether she was vetted properly, sir?
Well, it's pretty clear that investigative journalists have proved that due diligence was not done.
Any thoughts about what could happen now then if that due diligence wasn't done?
That's for the Prime Minister to resolve.
Nice to see you, Mr. Kent. Thanks.